Spark plug wires, also called ignition cables or high-tension leads, carry the high-voltage pulse from the ignition coil or distributor to each spark plug so the air-fuel mixture in each cylinder ignites at the correct time. If the wires are worn, cracked, or leaking, that high-voltage pulse can be weakened or lost, which causes misfires, poor fuel economy, rough idle, hard starting, and increased emissions. Bad wires can also allow electrical arcing to occur under the hood, sometimes visible as faint sparks in the dark. These are small and relatively inexpensive parts, but they play a vital role in keeping the ignition system reliable. When they fail, the engine symptoms are immediate and noticeable. In terms of when to replace them, many sources and parts manufacturers place spark plug wire replacement in the 30,000 to 70,000 mile range as a routine interval. Although some modern or OEM wires can last over 100,000 miles if they show no symptoms. If you do not drive enough to reach those mileages quickly, it is good practice to inspect the wires every 3 to 5 years using both a visual check and performance evaluation. Certain conditions shorten lifespan, such as high underhood heat, oil or grease contamination, heavy idling and short trips, or humid and coastal climates. The vehicle type also makes a difference. Older vehicles with external distributors and long ignition leads tend to need wires more often, while many modern engines use coil-on-plug systems with no plug wires at all, meaning there is nothing to replace. Symptoms that indicate wires may need replacement are fairly consistent across vehicles. Engine misfires, often accompanied by a check engine light, and misfire codes are common. A rough idle or an engine that feels lumpy is another red flag. Hard starting, especially in cold or damp conditions, reduced fuel economy or loss of power and acceleration are also common indicators. Visual inspection may show cracked insulation, brittle rubber, melted boots, or corrosion on terminals, as well as carbon tracking that looks like gray or black streaks. At night with the hood open, intermittent arcing may be visible as small sparks jumping from the wires. When it comes to cost, parts and labor vary widely by vehicle type, number of cylinders, and accessibility. DIY parts costs generally range from $30 to $80 for budget or economy sets, $80 to $150 for mid-grade aftermarket or brand name sets, and $150 to $400 or more for premium, OEM, or performance sets, especially on V8 or specialty applications. At a repair shop, a typical total for most passenger cars is $200 to $350, with parts in the $150 to $190 range and labor between $90 to $130. More complex vehicles, such as trucks, older distributor-based V8s, or European cars, can run $300 to $700 or more. As examples, a small 4-cylinder commuter car may cost $100 to $210 at a shop. A 6-cylinder midsize sedan might cost $150 to $310, and a V8 truck with a traditional distributor could range from $250 to $650 or more. DIY versus professional replacement has pros and cons. Parts costs are lower if you do it yourself, since you can buy retail aftermarket sets directly, while shops may mark up parts. Labor is free with DIY, although you spend your own time, versus $60 to $200 or more in shop labor. Difficulty is easy to moderate for most DIY jobs, taking 30 minutes to 90 minutes, while shops complete the work quickly with warranty coverage. Tools needed at home are basic: a socket set, spark plug wire puller or pliers, dielectric grease, and optionally a torque wrench. The risks with DIY are mixing up cylinder order, damaging boots or terminals by pulling incorrectly, forgetting dielectric grease, or not seating the boots fully. A shop, by contrast, will ensure correct installation, may test the ignition system, and usually provides a warranty. DIY is best for owners who are comfortable with simple engine work and accessible layouts, while professional replacement is preferable for those who want convenience, have difficult access, or want the assurance of a warranty. The DIY difficulty level varies by engine. For many inline 4 or inline 6 engines where the wires are visible, the job is easy to moderate. For V6 or V8 engines where the intake or plenum obstructs access, it can be much more challenging. Time needed ranges from 20 minutes to 45 minutes for an accessible 4-cylinder, to 1 hour to 2 hours or more for cramped layouts. Tools needed are a basic socket set, possibly a wire puller, dielectric grease for boots, a torque wrench if spark plugs are also being replaced, rags, light, and small picks for cleaning seats. Anti-seize is not recommended on modern spark plugs unless specifically directed. Key tips include replacing wires one at a time or labeling them to avoid mixing up the firing order, pulling at the boot instead of the wire to prevent internal damage, applying dielectric grease to the inside of each boot, checking for corrosion, and inspecting coil packs or coil boots where applicable. Preventive maintenance helps avoid unnecessary replacements. Inspect wires at every major service for cracks, soft spots, grease contamination, or arcing marks. If the wires look healthy and the engine runs smoothly, you can often leave them alone. Many OEM wires last for a very long time. It is not always necessary to replace wires just because at a fixed mileage unless symptoms or damage are present, though proactive replacement before a long road trip can provide peace of mind if the wires are old and brittle. When diagnosing misfires, keep in mind that spark plug wires are only one piece of the ignition system. Spark plugs themselves and ignition coils may also need testing or replacement to solve the problem fully. A practical checklist of signs of failing spark plug wires includes several steps. First, check for engine misfires or diagnostic codes pointing to misfires. Listen and feel for rough idle or vibration at idle. Monitor fuel economy and note any sluggish acceleration. Inspect each wire for cracking, brittleness, melted areas, or corrosion. At night, observe under the hood for visible arcing, with the engine running, but do so carefully from a safe distance. If you have a multimeter, perform a continuity or resistance test compared to manufacturer specifications. If both symptoms and visible damage are present, replace the set or the affected leads and retest. Regional and vehicle-specific differences matter. In North America, the cost ranges outlined earlier are a solid baseline, but labor rates can vary greatly by city, with urban areas at the high end. In Europe or other regions, labor is often more expensive even if parts costs are similar. High-performance or classic cars sometimes require specialty or made-to-order wires that push prices higher, and older layouts may involve more labor. To summarize clearly, you should replace spark plug wires when they show damage such as cracks, brittle boots, corrosion, or arcing, or when you have ignition symptoms like misfires, rough idle, hard starting, or loss of power. If your owner's manual lists an interval, follow it. Otherwise, inspect around 30,000 to 70,000 miles and consider replacement only if necessary, since many OEM wires can last to 100,000 miles. Costs for DIY parts typically range from $30 to $150 for most cars, while premium or specialty sets run $150 to $400 or more. Shop totals for most vehicles usually fall between $200 to $350, while more complex or specialty jobs can cost $300 to $700 or beyond. Doing the job yourself can be worth it if the engine bay is accessible and you're comfortable with basic maintenance, as it saves money and only requires simple tools. Going to a shop is the better choice if access is difficult, you want diagnostics and warranty, or you prefer the peace of mind of professional installation.